The chamber of the alien court was vast and strange. Its walls shimmered with living light, as if the building itself was alive and watching. Thousands of alien delegates filled the seats that curved in rings around the center floor. Their voices murmured like distant thunder, a mix of clicks, growls, and tones that no human throat could make. At the heart of the chamber stood a single table with 3 chairs behind it. That table was Earth's defense. The seats looked too small against the endless sea of alien eyes that stared down with cold amusement. Only 2 humans sat there, their faces pale. A third seat remained empty, left for the final witness who had not yet spoken. The judges entered at last. They were tall creatures with skin that glimmered like metal. Their heads were crowned with bone ridges, and their voices carried with a power that silenced the crowd instantly. When they spoke, every translator device in the chamber hummed, so even the smallest species could understand. "The trial of Earth begins," the lead judge announced. His voice was heavy with scorn. The accused stand charged with violence, destruction, and chaos against the order of the galaxy. Let all testimony be heard. A ripple of laughter broke out from one side of the chamber. Some of the alien delegates could not hold back their amusement. Their bodies shook, some with hissing chuckles, others with shrill whistles that echoed like cruel laughter. One alien, a reptilian creature with eyes like burning coals, leaned forward and spat words thick with disdain. "Why do we waste time? The humans are animals dressed in cloth. They fight themselves more than any enemy. They poison their own world. What defense could they possibly offer?" The human delegates did not answer, kept their eyes lowered, as if waiting for the storm to pass. Every insult thrown at them was heavy, yet they remained silent. The court grew bolder with their mockery. A 6-armed insectoid delegate stood and clacked its mandibles loudly. Perhaps they should be caged, as dangerous pets. "We keep predators from our young worlds. Shouldn't the humans be treated the same?" That earned more laughter from across the chamber. Some delegates banged their claws or slammed tails against the floor in approval. The lead prosecutor, tall alien with thin, translucent skin that revealed blue veins beneath, finally stood. He moved with slow grace, knowing every eye followed him. He gestured to a great screen that rose behind him, and with a flick of his hand, images appeared in the air. The first was of burning cities on Earth, smoke climbing into the sky while humans fought each other with fire and steel. The second showed mushroom clouds, terrible weapons of power so great that even the strongest alien armies shuddered at the sight. The third showed rivers poisoned with oil, oceans filled with dead fish, skies darkened with ash. Each image was followed by roars of laughter or disgust. The prosecutor's voice rang through the hall. "Here is your proof. Species that destroys its own home. A species that kills not only enemies, but its own kind in endless wars. They have poisoned land, air, and water. Cannot even live in peace with themselves. If they cannot rule themselves, how can they stand among us?" Some delegates nodded and hissed in agreement. Others jeered openly. The humans at the table did not rise, did not shout. They stayed silent, though their hands gripped the table edge until their knuckles turned white. The laughter from the chamber was like waves beating against a cliff, endless and mocking. The judges leaned forward, their glowing eyes narrowing. "Does Earth have a defense?" the lead judge asked. His tone was heavy with contempt, as though the answer was already clear. Or do they accept guilt? For a long moment, there was no sound from the human table. One of the delegates, a woman with gray hair tied back neatly, rose slowly. Her voice shook as she spoke. We will answer these charges, but not yet. Our defense will be given by our last witness." Her words seemed to surprise the crowd. A wave of murmurs moved through the chamber, curious and mocking at once. The prosecutor raised one thin hand, smiling in a way that was not kind. One last witness? This is their strategy? One voice against 1,000 truths? The laughter returned, crueler than before. A booming alien with tusks so large they curled around its face bellowed, "Perhaps the last witness will tell us bedtime stories to make us forget their crimes." Others sneered, "Or maybe they will cry and beg for pity." That would be fitting for such a weak species. Yet, even as the chamber filled with jeers, The humans did not answer. Their silence was strange, almost unnerving. The lead judge slammed a gavel-like staff against the floor, and the laughter slowly died down. "Then let us wait," the judge said. "We will hear this final voice. When it fails, Earth will be judged as guilty, and its people shall be punished." Dum-dum. The tension in the air grew thick. Every alien leaned closer, eager to hear what this last human would say. Some expected a fool. Others expected nothing at all. But one thing was clear. All believed it would end in humiliation, yet the humans sat calmly, as though they had been waiting for this moment all along. The empty chair behind them remained untouched, but it carried a strange weight. The witness was not yet here, but the court already felt the shadow of his presence. The aliens laughed, but unease stirred beneath their laughter. For the first time, the trial of Earth did not feel like a joke. It felt like the opening of something far more dangerous. The alien court was restless when the session opened again.
Oh.
The chamber lights dimmed and glowed with shifting colors, a display of formality among the judges. The alien prosecutor stood tall in the center floor, his translucent skin shining. Faintly under the living lights of the hall, his long fingers stretched toward the ceiling as he began his address, and his voice carried like a storm through the room. "Let the galaxy see what humanity truly is. Let none forget their crimes against themselves, against their world, and against any who meet them." His words echoed, and the chamber erupted in agreement. The screen rose again behind him, and images flickered across it. The first showed ancient battlefields on Earth, soldiers in metal armor clashing with swords, their faces twisted with rage. The second showed endless lines of machines from the World Wars, smoke rising into the sky as cities burned. The third showed mushroom clouds again, brighter and more terrifying than before. The prosecutor spread his arms wide, his voice rising. "They are born from war. They breathe destruction. From the beginning of their history, they have chosen violence. They have not evolved. They cannot change. Humanity is war, and war is humanity." The chamber shook with laughter. Some delegates slammed their hands against the railing in rhythm, mocking applause for every image. A scaled alien with slitted eyes leaned forward and hissed. "I counted 150 wars in their history texts. How can such a people call themselves civilized?" Another, a tall creature of feathers and bone, spread its wings wide in disgust. "They do not belong in this court. They belong in cages or graves." The mockery spread, filling the vast chamber like a poisonous fog. The human table remained silent. The woman with gray hair kept her eyes on the floor. Beside her, the second human clenched his fists so tight the skin on his knuckles split, yet still, he said nothing. They did not rise, did not argue. They waited. The silence only fueled the cruelty of the crowd. The prosecutor's voice lowered, and the screen changed again. This time, it showed Earth's skies filled with smoke, oceans, black with oil, forests cut down into wastelands. "And what of their home?" he said, his tone sharp. "The humans poisoned their own world. They drowned their seas with filth. They burned the skies until the air itself rebelled. What kind of creature destroys the ground beneath its feet? What kind of species kills the only planet it has?" A roar of approval swept through the chamber. Some aliens pounded the rails with claws. Others hissed or bellowed in laughter. The prosecutor's lips curled into a smile. If they cannot protect their home, they will not protect ours. If they cannot live with their own kind, how can they live with the galaxy? Humanity is not fit to stand here. Humanity is not fit. To survive, one alien stood, a beast of muscle and horns, its voice booming over the chamber. "End this trial. There is no need for delay. We should vote now and cast Earth out. Remove the humans before their plague spreads further." The chamber rumbled with approval. Still, the humans remained silent. Their quiet was not weakness, but something else. The laughter began to falter when the silence stretched too long. The prosecutor narrowed his eyes, unsettled that they gave him no reaction to feed upon. He slammed his hand against the table, his voice rising again. "Do you see? They have no words, no courage. They cannot even speak in their own defense." Lead judge leaned forward, his metallic skin glinting under the chamber's glow. His voice was cold. The charges are grave. The evidence is strong. If Earth has no answer, then this trial ends here. Their sentence will be decided. His words cut like a blade, and the chamber stirred, eager for the end. At last, the woman at the human table raised her head. Her eyes, though tired, held a spark of fire. Her voice was steady, though soft. "We will answer. But not now. Not us." She turned toward the empty chair, the one seat untouched since the trial began. "Our defense will be spoken by our last witness." The chamber erupted at once. Laughter, jeers, disbelief. A scaled alien shrieked in delight. One man? Voice against the galaxy? This is their plan? Another slammed its claw against the railing. "Bring him forward, then. Let us laugh at his words before the sentence falls." The sound of mockery was deafening, rolling like a wave around the court, but hidden beneath the laughter was unease. The humans still did not flinch. They still did not explain. They waited with calm faces, as if the mockery meant nothing. Their silence felt heavier than any argument. The empty chair behind them seemed to draw every eye, as though a shadow sat there already, unseen yet felt. The judges exchanged glances, their ridged heads tilted in thought. At last the lead judge spoke. "Very well, the court will wait. We will hear this final witness. If he fails, humanity is guilty, and Earth shall pay the price. If he succeeds, then let the galaxy decide." His gavel struck the floor, the sound sharp as thunder. The chamber quieted, but the laughter never fully died. Aliens muttered and sneered, their voices low but cruel. Still, the humans said nothing. The empty chair remained untouched, carrying a promise that none could yet understand. The court had mocked them. The evidence had damned them. But the silence of Earth's defenders carried a weight the aliens had not expected. Something was coming, and though they laughed, the sound was thinner now, weaker than before. Something about the last witness unsettled them all. The chamber of the alien court felt different when the session began again. The air was heavy, as if the walls themselves were waiting. The laughter of the previous day had softened, though many still smirked and whispered in cruel tones.
Ow.
Empty chair behind the human table stood ready at last. Every alien I turned to it, as if the chair itself was a riddle. What kind of witness would Earth send? A general? A scientist? A leader? Or perhaps no one at all, and their silence was only another humiliation waiting to be revealed. The judges sat higher than the rest, their ridged heads gleaming under the living lights. The lead judge's voice cut through the murmurs like a blade. Earth has promised one final voice. Bring him forward now. Let the last witness speak. The chamber doors opened slowly, their movement echoing like the groan of ancient stone. Into the light stepped a single human man. He was not armored, carried no grand robes, no medals, no crown of office. His suit was simple and worn, the edges of his sleeves slightly frayed. His face was plain, marked with lines of age and hardship. His steps were steady, unhurried, as though the weight of the galaxy's gaze meant nothing to him. The aliens erupted at once. A wave of laughter thundered through the court. A winged creature spread its feathers and shrieked in delight. This is their champion? This is the mighty voice of Earth. Another delegate, with scales of blue and gold, hissed with cruel amusement. He is no warrior, no king. He looks like a laborer, a servant. Perhaps they could not find anyone greater. The laughter rolled around the chamber, cruel and sharp. The man walked to the empty chair and did not sit. Instead, he placed his hands gently on the table before him and looked up at the judges. His eyes were calm, steady, and strangely bright. When he finally spoke, his voice was not loud, but it carried through the chamber with a weight that silenced even the laughter for a moment. "You laugh at me," he said. "You laugh because I am not what you expected. You wanted a warrior or a king or someone dressed in shining power. But I am only a man. That is why you should listen." The chamber fell into a strange hush. The aliens shifted uneasily, some sneering still, others narrowing their eyes. The prosecutor rose sharply, his translucent skin gleaming. Do not waste this court's time with riddles. You stand accused, as does your entire world. Speak if you have something to offer, or sit and let us pass sentence.
Yes.
The man's gaze did not falter. You have judged us by our scars, he said, his voice steady. You have looked at the ashes we left behind and called us monsters. You see our wars, our disasters, our broken lands, and you laugh. But scars are not proof of weakness. Scars are proof of survival. A ripple of murmurs moved through the chamber. Some aliens frowned, some tilted their heads, curious despite themselves. The man continued, his voice gaining strength with every word. We do not deny what we have done. We have fought wars. Yes. We have hurt ourselves. Yes. We have burned and bled and lost. But what you do not see in those scars is that we endured them. Again and again, we faced things that should have destroyed us. And still we are here. The prosecutor slammed his hand against the table. Endless excuses. Survival does not excuse destruction. You speak like a poet, but the galaxy needs truth. The man turned his gaze toward him, and for the first time, his eyes hardened. The truth, he said slowly, is that humanity has been tested by fire and death since the moment we first walked on our world. We are fragile, yes. We bleed easily, we break easily. But we are not easy to erase. Every time we fall, we rise again. Every time we are broken, we mend stronger. You call that destruction, call that proof. Silence spread across the chamber. Deeper than before? Some aliens leaned forward, their expressions sharp with attention. The man finally sat in the empty chair, his movements calm and sure. He placed a small black device on the table before him, its surface dark and silent. His hand rested upon it as he looked up at the judges. You want evidence, he said? I will show you, not words, not excuses. Proof. Let me open this, and you will see why we are more than the scars you laugh at. Let me show you why humanity survives. The chamber stirred, uncertain and uneasy. The judges exchanged glances, their glowing eyes narrowed. The lead judge raised his voice, sharp and commanding. Very well, show us what you have. But understand this. If you fail, there will be no more chances. Earth's fate will be sealed. The man nodded once, calm as stone. His hand hovered over the black device, and for a moment, the entire chamber seemed to hold its breath. Every alien eye was locked on him. No one laughed now. The silence was thick, alive, and waiting. The last witness had spoken, and the court could already sense that what came next would not be mockery, but something far more dangerous. The court waited in a silence that pressed down like weight. Thousands of alien eyes glowed in the dim light, fixed on the small black device resting on the human witnesses' table. The judges leaned forward on their high seats, their ridged heads lowered in caution. Even the prosecutor, so full of arrogance before, looked uncertain. The man's fingers touched the device at last, and with a quiet click, it came alive. A thin beam of light shot upward, unfolding into a glowing sphere of shifting images. The chamber filled with holograms, gasps echoed among the aliens. The first scene showed a city on Earth engulfed in flames. Buildings collapsed, the streets were a storm of smoke and ash, yet through the fire, humans ran, not away but toward the danger. Firefighters with faces blackened by soot carried children in their arms. Strangers formed chains of hands to guide people out of the smoke. Some fell and did not rise again, yet the others kept running into the blaze. The witnesses, voice carried softly over the vision. We are not proud of the fire. We are proud of those who run into it. The second image shifted to a dark ocean. A storm raged, waves rising like mountains, ships tossed like toys. A vessel cracked in half, its crew thrown into the freezing sea. Above them, helicopters fought the storm to lower ropes, men and women, straining against the wind to pull strangers from the water. The witness's eyes glowed faintly as he spoke. We drown, yes, but we throw ropes into storms for those we have never met. The third scene showed fields of rubble, where an earthquake had torn through homes and left thousands trapped. Humans dug with bare hands, tearing their skin against stone, refusing to stop even when the ground shook again. A woman screamed, as her hands bled, but she pulled a small child from the debris and held him close. The court was silent now, the laughter gone. The witness's voice deepened. We break the ground with our own bodies if it means saving one more life. We are not ashamed of our scars. They are proof we keep fighting. The prosecutor shifted uneasily, his translucent skin glowing faint blue with discomfort. Tried to sneer, so you show us moments of mercy. But they are drops in oceans of blood. What of your wars? What of your cruelty? The man raised his head, and the device shifted again. This time it showed soldiers on opposite sides of a battlefield. Guns lowered, crossing lines to carry the wounded together. It showed enemies who days before had tried to kill each other sharing water in a desert. It showed doctors rushing into war zones, unarmed, to save lives under fire. The human witness's voice grew firmer, louder. Even in our darkest hours, there are those who choose light. We do not deny our violence. But even when surrounded by hate, we create mercy. Even when broken, we choose to heal. That is humanity. The chamber was silent, but it was no longer the silence of mockery. It was the silence of beings who had never expected to see such things. The judge's glowing eyes reflected the images. As they shifted across the chamber walls, a fettered alien lowered its head in thought. Scaled one that had laughed before, sat still, its tail wrapped tightly around its body. The man leaned closer to the table, his hands firm upon it. His voice lowered but carried like thunder through the quiet. You think survival makes us beasts? You are wrong. Survival has made us human. Fragile? Yes. Broken? Yes. But stronger for every scar. We do not stand here to deny what we have done. We stand here to show you why we are still here, when so much should have destroyed us long ago. The device flickered one final time, showing the earth itself, blue and scarred but alive. Cities stood tall, forests regrew, oceans still churned with life. The image hung in the chamber like a jewel in the dark. We have poisoned our world, but we fight to heal it. We have burned it, but we rebuild it. We do not give up. That is why we endure. That is why we will endure still. No one laughed now. No one mocked. The chamber felt colder, heavier. The laughter that had once filled. It seemed like a memory from another age. Every delegate sat in silence, forced to face what they had seen. The man placed his hand gently back on the device, and the images vanished into nothing. He lifted his eyes to the judges, calm but unyielding. This is our defense, he said simply. It's not that we are perfect, not that we are innocent, but that we survive. We suffer, we break, we fall, and still we rise. We are humanity, and that is enough. The silence that followed was endless. The court had mocked Earth, had sneered at its scars, had laughed at its pain. But now, with the last witness's words still echoing in the chamber, the laughter was gone. In its place was something colder, sharper, unease. The judges whispered among themselves, their glowing eyes flickering. The prosecutor stood frozen, his arguments tangled in his throat. The delegates shifted restlessly, some with narrowed eyes, others with a new, quiet fear. The last witness leaned back in his chair, his expression calm. He had spoken, he had shown them, and he had not begged for pity, had not asked for mercy. He had offered only truth. It was the kind of truth the galaxy could not laugh at anymore. The chamber lights dimmed again, as if the very hall had grown heavy with thought. The air no longer rang with laughter, pressed cold and tense against every throat, holding back words that once flowed so freely in mockery. The last witness sat calmly in his chair, his hands folded before him. His face showed no triumph, only quiet certainty. When he spoke again, his voice was low, but it carried through the vast hall like a blade cutting the silence. You think we are weak? You think our scars prove we are broken? But you do not understand. Weakness is not what you see. It is a mask. Behind it lies something you should fear. The delegates stirred. Some shifted uneasily in their seats. Others sneered, though without the same confidence as before. The prosecutor forced a bitter laugh. Fear? This from a species that has nearly destroyed itself? Tell me, why should the galaxy fear those who stumble through their own mistakes? Man's eyes turned toward him, sharp as steel. Because we do not stop, he answered. His voice rose now, steady and fierce. You call us violent? You call us reckless. Perhaps we are. But remember this. Every time something has tried to end us, it has failed. Every empire that conquered us fell. Every enemy that thought us weak found themselves buried under our persistence. We may bleed, we may fall, but we never stay down. And that is what should terrify you. The device on the table flickered again, showing a new string of images. They were not moments of mercy this time, but of defiance. Ancient warriors charging with broken weapons against armies larger than their villages. Ships lost in deep seas, yet survivors crawling onto shore, refusing to give death its victory. Soldiers standing in ruined trenches, frostbitten and starving, yet holding the line until their last breath. Rebels rising against kings, against tyrants, against chains, always returning, always enduring. The man's voice thundered through the silence. We learn from every scar. We adapt from every failure. Our strength is not in our power. It is in our refusal to surrender. We're fragile in body, but unbreakable in spirit. You laugh because you mistake patience for weakness. You mistake silence for fear. But when pushed too far, when cornered, humanity will show you the truth. And the truth is this: if you seek to erase us, you will fail. And in your failure, you will learn why survival has made us dangerous. The chamber shifted with unease. A feathered alien lowered its wings in discomfort. A scaled delegate who had once mocked loudly now kept its gaze locked on the floor. The laughter that had once filled the hall seemed distant, fragile, unable to return. The prosecutor tried to speak again, but his voice caught. You speak? Threats. But they are empty.
Oh.
The galaxy has greater powers than yours.
Oh.
The man leaned forward, his voice calm again, almost gentle, which made it far more terrifying. Yes, you have greater weapons. Yes, you have greater armies. But what happens when your weapons break? What happens when your armies fall? What happens when your perfect systems collapse under their own weight? Do you rise again? Or do you fade into history, another empire forgotten? Humanity rises. That is what we do. That is why we remain. The judges exchange looks. They're glowing. Eyes flickering with thought. One leaned close to another, whispering words too low for the chamber to hear. The lead judge finally raised his voice. This is no defense. This is a warning. The man did not flinch. His voice was steady as he answered, yes. That is what it must be. You wanted us to beg for mercy, to explain our scars, to justify our existence. We will not. We will only tell you this. If you allow us to stand among you, you will have allies, who will never abandon the fight, who will endure storms no one else can. But if you seek to cast us out, if you seek to erase us, then you will face a storm you cannot endure. This is the warning of humanity. Remember it well. The silence that followed was deep and sharp, like the air before lightning strikes. No alien dared laugh now. The court that had once mocked Earth was no longer so certain. The laughter had died, replaced by unease, replaced by fear. The last witness leaned back slowly in his chair, calm and still, as if nothing more needed to be said. The chamber, vast and endless, seemed smaller now under the weight of his words. For the first time in the trial, the galaxy was not laughing at humanity. It was listening. And what it heard left it afraid. The chamber of the alien court was darker than before. The glowing walls dimmed as if they too felt the weight of the moment.
Oh, no one laughed now. No one mocked.
The great hall, once filled with gears and cruel amusement, was silent except for the low whispers of the judges as they leaned toward one another. Their ridged heads bowed close, their metallic skin glinting faintly in the shifting light. The delegates waited, their bodies still, their voices gone. Even the prosecutor, once bold and cruel, stood frozen at his table, his translucent skin pale with unease. The last witness did not move. He sat calmly in his chair, his hands folded before him, his gaze fixed on the judges above. He did not plead. He did not frown. He only waited, as if he already knew what they would decide. The silence stretched long, and in that silence, the unease of the aliens grew. Some shifted in their seats, claws tapping rails, tails curling tight. Others glanced at one another nervously, unsure of the thoughts stirring in their minds. Laughter they had once thrown so easily now felt far away, foolish, almost dangerous to recall. At last the lead judge struck his staff against the floor. The sound boomed like thunder, echoing across the chamber and silencing even the smallest whispers. His glowing eyes swept over the court before fixing on the human witness. His voice carried heavy and slow, each word chosen with care. The court has heard. The evidence against Earth is grave. The scars of your people cannot be denied. Yet the defense has spoken not with excuses, but with truth. Humanity is dangerous, but not in the way we believed. Murmurs rippled across the chamber, soft and uneasy. The judge's voice rose again, firm and clear. You are dangerous because you cannot be broken. You endure when others fall. You rise when others surrender. You warn us not to mistake scars for weakness, and we cannot ignore that warning. To erase you would not be justice. It would be folly. The chamber stirred with surprise. Some aliens hissed, some muttered, some fell into tense silence. The prosecutor stepped forward, desperation in his voice. My lords, you cannot allow them entry. They are unstable. They are violent. They are the judge's staff struck again, silencing him. They are human, the lead judge said, his glowing eyes unblinking. And this court does not laugh at humanity any longer. The hall erupted in low voices, not of laughter, but of unease and respect. Delegates whispered to one another, their tones sharp with caution. No one banged their tails or clapped their claws this time. The witness rose slowly from his chair. His movements were calm, unhurried, just as they had been when he first entered. He looked up at the sea of alien faces, his expression steady. We never asked for mercy, he said, his voice strong, carrying through the vast chamber with ease. We did not come here to beg. We came to remind you that we are not weak, we are not perfect, but we endure. And if you choose to stand with us, you will have allies who will never fall. If you choose to stand against us, then remember this warning well. Humanity rises, always. The silence that followed was sharp, but it was not empty. It was filled with the weight of his words, a weight that pressed into every heart, every mind. The judges leaned back in their seats, their glowing eyes never leaving the human witness. The decision had been made, but the echoes of his voice would linger far beyond this chamber. The humans at the defense table stood together now, no longer pale or trembling. They walked with him toward the doors, their heads held high. The chamber watched them in silence, thousands of alien eyes following every step. None mocked, none laughed. Some looked with fear, others with respect. But all of them knew the truth. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. The great doors closed behind them with a deep, final sound. The trial was over. The laughter was dead. The warning had been spoken, and it would not be forgotten. Humanity had come to the court not to beg, not to plead, but to endure. And endure. They would. For that was what humans always did.